Actually, the world has been filled with doom and gloom. So we are being hit with a compounded financial crisis and a public health crisis at the moment. But why don't we, seeing you in yellow, doing fantastic business in China market, why don't we start with something cheerful? How's your business going post the coronavirus? And do you see actually any opportunities coming in the online space for your business?
Right. So all of us are from, with mainland China background, and hence we all know what the word crisis means in Chinese, right? So there's always a danger element in it, and there is an opportunity element in it, and it is a choice. I truly believe that. In my business right now, I honestly only see opportunities. First of all my business is related to China, and yes, unfortunately, 3 months ago, China was hit with the coronavirus, but now it is the first market to recover as well. Second thing, essentially the new normal in China is being created. So everybody, all the brands, all the companies, all the industries are running around, pulling their hair and screaming, we need a new revised China strategy, China plan. We need to understand the new normal. What are the values of consumers, how to approach them? What is the consumer journey? What has changed within those short 3 months? So they basically take out their strategy and they throw it out of the window, be it business strategy or marketing strategy, which is for us good for business. Absolutely. At the same time, I see a lot of opportunities in media right now. Look at us, ladies. We are sitting and talking to each other, even though we've seen each other for like 2 years back and forth, online. But right now we finally take the time, being confined in our homes and home offices, etc. There's a lot of media interview. Bloomberg reaches out. New York Times wants that piece. I mean, everybody wants a piece of that news and understanding, which is great, right? Because you build your impact as well. And this is a phenomenal opportunity also to build your team, because I'm hiring every year after Chinese New Year. This is my big hunting season when I get all these, designers and copywriters, etc. And I can tell you, unfortunately for many industries, but fortunately for myself, a lot of people been let go here in Asia already. I mean, in mainland China, in Hong Kong, I believe it's a global thing that is just now starting. So I was able to get phenomenal people that were available in the market, and we were very happy together right now. So for my business, I choose to look at it as 99% opportunities, and of course my thoughts and my heart is with those that are suffering the hardships amidst this global pandemic.
Ashley, I read somewhere that you called this even a second spring, but don't you think that these hopes and the optimism might be a little bit premature, because just now we have Hong Kong basically warning about a second wave of the coronavirus that is imported from outside, so we have like 14 days of quarantine again, that maybe all of this will slow down, or do you see real opportunities now for foreign and domestic brands already materializing?
Right. So that depends on which markets are we looking at and how flexible are you with the timeline. Yeah, in the next, let's say, half a year, to be honest, looking at Hong Kong as a market, I do not see anything improving. Well, Hong Kong has not just been hit by coronavirus. We all know that it had the social unrest, it had the landlords that were not really supporting retail and offline first businesses. And right now it's Corona, and just February this year, Hong Kong's tourism fell 96% compared to last year. So you can imagine that what it does. Yeah, it's devastating, not just because it's such a hit on business, but because the landlords here are basically not moving and are not willing to support the small guy, right? The business owners. So for Hong Kong, does this year 2020 look good? Look shiny? Is suddenly everything going to go back to normal in summer? No, definitely not. Hong Kong has inherited problems that it will have to deal with long term, and I believe that Hong Kong will have to reinvent themselves. And of course, in terms of pandemic, second wave is coming. Again, I'm not a medical professional and I do not give a medical advice, but I do believe, based on what we've seen so far, a global second wave is coming across various markets, not only in Hong Kong or in Singapore or in Japan. So this is going to be something very interesting. But when we look at China, when we look at generally this time of the world, of global economy, it is always an opportunity, because we are going to become much more digital. We are definitely going to see the way the values change, and when values change, consumers change, and when consumers change, the way we provide products, the kind of products and services we provide, all changes. So there are a lot of opportunities, or even tourism. A lot of people say, like, there's nothing good that comes out, you know, of this situation for the tourism sector. I disagree, because for the longest time, tourism sector did not have an opportunity to build infrastructure for the amount of people that are just coming to explore those various locations. Well, right now is a great time to invest, and those that are able to capture this new wave to build their infrastructure, they will be benefiting immensely. The same thing with new retail, with e-commerce, with online payments, remote work, digital education, and thought leaders like us. It's all going to, again, hugely benefit.
Actually, you are LinkedIn's top voice in marketing globally for 2019, and a huge congratulations. I mean, what an honor, right? You have done amazing work, and we should have mentioned it at the very beginning. But I think for 2020, we cannot also ignore the fact yesterday I was flying for a 2.5 hours flight, you know, a whole cabin was only 6 passengers. And I was packing before I was leaving, and I'm thinking, oh, gee, you know, flying in the midst of a pandemic, I might as well just carry as little as possible. And then all of a sudden I'm wondering, why did I even need 3 handbags at home? Why do I need a whole wardrobe, you know? And all of a sudden I say to myself a million times, I'm not going to buy any more clothes for the next 10 years. I have just enough. And I think this sort of crisis moments make a lot of people think about what are truly valuable and what's really important in life. But that translates into consumer confidence and consumer spending. You work with directly the consumer sector in China. How do you stimulate demand from the consumer side at this moment? Everybody, I think, is like me, probably trying to wish for some downsizing.
Right. So at this point, you need to understand the crisis dynamics. So at this point where we are right now, you don't stimulate anything. At this point right now, you are trying to connect. You're trying to look, what are the touch points? What do people really care about? Like, if Shirley tells me I don't need handbags, great, but you need something else. Maybe you need spiritual development. Maybe you suddenly want to bring your parents. You never went on tours with him, but right now you really want to not just go to Thailand with them, but bring them to some exclusive place after everything comes down, and you really find a way to connect. You know, you need to look at what is changing. So this is a phenomenal opportunity for you to connect with that change. And then once you already see clearly what for each of those different consumer groups, because these journeys are very different, what is the new normal? What is the new touch point? What is important right now? Then, yes, a lot of industries will have to change. A lot of products will have to change. A lot of that will have to be adjusted. And then the beauty is you will be able to connect the demand, the supply, the products. You will be solving what are we doing in this world? We are all serving life. And how do we serve life? Well, by providing, you know, by solving somebody's problems. So you cannot, yes, maybe bag like the one behind me used to solve my problem 2 years ago, but maybe in a year from now, it will not solve the problem that is really deeply inside of me. And maybe a year ago, I didn't realize that this problem was there. So it's all about investigating the new problems and finding the new solutions. And
That's
yes, as you mentioned.
Now, which brands, Ashley, which companies, which retail companies do you think will emerge as winners? Can you imagine like 2-3 brands that you think will really, you know, beat the competition and make a lot of money?
Well, I think in terms of brands themselves, I would say that there are a couple of brands both within mainland China, local and Western, that are doing a great job connecting and really staying on point and communicating and over communicating and being empathetic. In terms of consumer brands, I would say all the big names are doing kind of okay. I think Starbucks is rather empathetic. I believe that a lot of local Chinese brands are actually doing a great job. And I believe when it comes to, let's say, clothing, especially like silk clothing or some higher quality stuff, China will actually emerge as the global or at least Asian kind of winner in probably 3 to 5 year perspective. So we're going to see them going global long term. But for China market, the biggest winners out of this whole thing are probably, I mean, winners, it's a horrible situation, but still, Alibaba, they are basically looping everybody inside their new retail ecosystem. I mean, look at the farmers.
Actually,
farmers are live stream.
But isn't that something that we have to really ponder twice? Alibaba is already so big. Alibaba owns half of China's, digital universe, I should say. How much bigger can Alibaba be? I mean, is there?
They will be global. I remember that advice of my friend, a very good friend of mine, and he is in financial markets. And I told him, Alibaba is this and Alibaba is that. And he told me, buy Alibaba stocks. And I said, when do I sell them? And he said, buy and hold. So guys, again, I'm not giving financial advice, but I do believe that with what they are planning in Southeast Asia, in Latin America, in Africa as well, the way they are building like Lego, their ecosystem, they're going to be a global superpower. And the difference between Amazon and all other, let's say, Western alternatives is that Alibaba is truly an ecosystem. It is truly providing this new retail as a service. You can plug into that, and they give you AI, and they give you AR, and they give you this, and
online
they give you
payments
that.
as well, right?
Everything.
But then here's an interesting point. I talked with some industry experts a while ago, and then in the U.S. Before the presidential elections, Elizabeth Warren, at one point, she was talking about breaking up Facebook. So I told these U.S. counterparts, I said, that's the wrong strategy. If I were an American, I probably wouldn't side with Warren, because it's not about breaking Facebook. It's actually about consolidating 5-6 Facebooks together into one company to be able to compete with Alibaba. But then that is, I guess, are we seriously entering into a global digital realm where there will be a couple of global monopolizers, and Alibaba tends to probably be one of them? And how do U.S. companies even compete?
It's not about competing, because we see in the past, let's say 5 years, that the digital worlds of China and the rest of the world are just kind of, sort of floating further and further apart. So we're going to have dual internet. Like, this duality is going to be everywhere. Either you are a part of one ecosystem or the other. And there are many reasons, not only business philosophy and the fact that, some places have a more consolidated ecosystem, but also the fact how we handle data. What is the law? What is the consumer kind of sentiment when it comes to handling data? Because they're extremely different from, let's say, China, Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and then we see US, Europe, etc. So this is not going to work together. So in this whole bringing it back together, in this whole crisis right now, ecosystems such as Alibaba or even JD, they are phenomenally benefiting, because JD has also their own supply chain, their own logistics, and this was the kind of blocking point for what was happening in China in the past 2 months. So the benefits of having your own non-outsourced department are clearly shown right now, and that's where Alibaba is trying to quickly kind of make their pace. And it's beautiful, because through this Alibaba, through this JD, through those ecosystems, the more important they become in China right now after Corona, the more brands, even luxury brands, tourism brands, even farmers, as I mentioned before.
Because Alibaba just got into tourism recently.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Douyin is going the same route. Yeah, Douyin, is going the same route. So more and more businesses that can plug into this ecosystem will also have to evolve. So it's not just, don't look at Alibaba as, oh, okay, the company is doing great. Just like Amazon. Amazon is doing great, but it does not concern other industries and people and businesses. But when Alibaba is doing great, because the world is changing, they will force a huge change in the market. We have, ladies, 1 million new Taobao stores opened last month in February. And we have more than 10,000 farmers joining newly live stream on the newly created Farmer Live Stream Day on Alibaba. 10,000 farmers across the country. Just think about that.
It's incredible.
Absolutely. And
another very interesting industry to watch is, of course, online and digital education. And there we have a big player, ByteDance. which is also entering into that business and this sector. For example, they've just launched with the coronavirus a new campaign with the hashtag EduTalk. So they try to get many more institutions and schools and universities onto their platforms, not just for short 15, 60 seconds videos, but also for live streaming, which is really seeing a kind of a renaissance right now with the coronavirus as well. Do you think that ByteDance could also become a major digital education player?
I believe that ByteDance, if I'm not mistaken, they recently also launched an app that is going to compete in the remote workspace. So apart from just Ding Talk and WeChat Work, we're right now going to have something sponsored by ByteDance and created by them, which is gorgeous. ByteDance had a slightly different route. In fact, all these three companies, they had a different route to power. But what is the core of all of their businesses is data, and the way either how much data they have, or in ByteDance case, it is how they handle that data. What do they do with that? They actually run it on what they call AI, but in reality, it's the machine learning. And it's a beautiful company. If they were a publicly listed company, I would definitely invest in them. Unfortunately, they are not.
Yes.
Not yet.
So to your question, Martina, they will become, in my view, one of the powerful ecosystems. What kind of ecosystem, it still remains to see, but they will definitely be somewhere there. Yeah.
And very unique as well, because they have AI, machine learning, they have their news aggregators and Toutiao and everything. So very separate, right, from other mega players and tech giants like Tencent or Amazon or Google, Facebook, and so on. And I've heard that their AI labs, which they have in Beijing and in London and elsewhere, are really incredible and kind of leapfrogging and very innovative as well.
Absolutely. And that's because the core of the company is all about, I don't care how you do it, let's double next year. And that forces you to think differently. And I think that this is, very fit for 21st century.
Very fit. And at the same time, I find in the digital space, what really gives China a tremendous advantage is the fact that China does not mind these monopolistic businesses' existence. In the US, too many rules, regulations, breaking up companies, that's really not, I think, very helpful in competing with the giant ecosystem. But I think actually you raised a very critical point just now in resolving this coronavirus crisis. Back in February in China, when some 60-some cities all over the country were in lockdown, and then Chinese, like my parents in their 70s, they learned how to buy vegetables online to be delivered to home. Otherwise, without this crisis, they would have always gone to the supermarkets and buy their own and come back. It's like a social experience. But now they are so skilled at using online grocery shopping apps now. But I think with that, in the US or in the UK, in Europe, even if people are locked down in quarantine at home, where do they have these apps to be able to deliver fresh produce to home? There are nothing like this. And then I just started to wonder, how did they miss so much in this whole digital world in the West? I guess that the point is, for a Chinese to be locked down for 40 days is horrendous, but to have fresh produce being sent every day, it's not so bad versus in the West. I mean, if you are locked down at home, what would you do?
Instant noodles.
Right? You notice here in Europe right now, like in Zurich, where I am today, or in London last week, where all the restaurants, for example, all of a sudden are forced. They have no choice, right? So this is a window of opportunity for them to just get everything online. But logistically, of course, this is a huge challenge. And they need to learn, by doing basically now or never.
So actually, we don't have a lot of time. You are the industry expert and a very big voice authority in the field as well. So for international watchers who are watching this video today, for 2020 in Chinese market, what are the biggest opportunities for them, and which sectors do you encourage them to come in full force to China market in 2020?
So if 2020 is their first year in China, I would say this is a bit too late, but prepare. If you're going into that market, make sure that it is your most important market or the market with the most focus. Because if it's just a side thought, side kick, you're going to fail. Don't waste your time, money, and human resources. So if you're serious about the market, I believe there's still a lot of opportunities when it comes to consumer goods. Food is still phenomenal. I mean, Chinese people still, in many respects, prefer high quality, overseas imported products, skincare, clothing, etc. But they want a very niche, kind of cool, something that talks to them. Just having made in New Zealand is not cool anymore. You need to make in New Zealand specifically for Chinese. And I believe that there's a lot of opportunities when it comes to tourism, because a lot of people are going to start traveling. They're going to start traveling differently. It's going to be probably less people, more expensive kind of travels. So reinvent yourself. Also, I believe that a lot of young people will go for upgrade, for the purchase upgrade, but a lot of older people will go for purchase downgrade. So there's actually going to be, brands, in my view, will have to decide, are we catering for somebody who is going up, or are we catering for somebody who's going down? Because right now, a lot of Western brands, they just go to China and say, okay, we're somewhere in with the middle.
For China.
That's going to work for China. So you will have to decide, because this middle part will be, first of all, thinning out, in my view, and also there will be a lot of local players with phenomenal quality, with this affiliation and connection with Chinese consumers, with very strong private schools.
KYC, know your customer, right? This is really key.
So basically you're saying there is a polarizing consumer preferences that are going on in China at the moment.
Absolutely.
You either go pretty high or you go pretty low.
Well, depending on how pretty is pretty, but yes, you need to definitely lean towards one or the other. And as Martina also mentioned, segmenting and knowing your customer, because China is not a united kind of market, or I want middle class, or I want girls that are 30. It really consists of the whole Europe of possibilities.
And as you say, Ashley, it's really a market that no one can miss anymore, because it's estimated that the online retail market in China is worth some 1.94 trillion US dollars. That's like 3 times the size of the US, where Shirley is today. So we should all relocate and join you again in China, Ashley. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, ladies, for having me. It was a pleasure.